So, Punit, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you for coming in. So, look, I think we've got some really interesting and exciting topics to talk about through your career working with PE firms, perhaps unlocking and demystifying some myths
Mhm.
that we know of, things that we've talked about before. So, but before we get into all of that, I want to talk a bit about you, your history, and your career. So, you're currently IT and technology director for Aurelius.
Yes,
You haven't always worked there. You've had a career history before that. So, talk to us a bit more about how you got into the technology sector, and then also how you got into working with PE firms as your sort of first venture.
sure. I'm Puneet. I started working in the field of technology about 22 years back.
Yep.
Before that, I did my majors and bachelors of engineering in information systems. I've always been intrigued by technology, how it can help businesses and corporates in automating things, making life easier for everyone. I started my career as a software engineer. Uh, uh, and a lot of work I did early in my career was in the space of ERP delivery. And I was always intrigued by uh, why certain projects happen. What's the business rationale for that? How are we solving a business problem?
Hmm.
Uh, that intrigue and curiosity always drove me to understand what's the business problem, why are we doing something. And throughout my career, I've evolved roles from a software engineer to integration architect, solution architect, project management, then delivering and managing large transformation programs
Yep.
uh, enabled by technology, large enterprise applications, ERP, Oracle specifically. I work with big vendors like Oracle Consulting, PwC, and EY. And a lot of the works you do in ERP space is a result of a deal or a transaction,
Hmm.
mergers and acquisitions. Either it's carving out a business and making it standalone operationally from a big corporate, or organization has acquired another business and integrating that within their own business.
Yep.
So leading those programs from a technology angle, uh, I've been doing that for many years now, and most of those transactions were a result of a PE buying
Yep.
something from a corporate or a PE integrating into a portfolio as a buy and build strategy.
Nice.
So that's what uh, brought me to Aurelius as well. And within Aurelius, we have an ops advisory team which enables and helps all the portfolio companies on the technology landscape.
Hmm.
So we support our deal teams throughout the deal lifecycle before even a transaction happens in technology due diligence, where we look at uh, how easy or difficult it would be
Yeah.
to carve out that business from a corporate or to make it run independently. What would it cost?
Yep.
What time it might take? What are the risks?
Yep.
How we can use technology as a value creation tool, either reducing operational cost,
Hmm.
improving the processes, or using it as a value creation tool of making a business omni-channel, digital, opening up new revenue work streams.
Yep.
And that's what I'm currently doing for the various portfolio companies, being leading some of the major transformation programs, as well as stabilizing them, carving them out, or making them ready for an exit. Uh, so that's where I am now.
Nice. Okay, very good. And it's quite a pivotal role, right? In an organization, as you say, there's lots of things that you need to determine with your team. I'm assuming to make sure that you're weighing up sort of the risk versus reward, as you say, and the cost and the opportunity and the benefit, and how easy is it to implement these things into the portfolio companies? Can they turn it around quickly? How did you get into that? Going from someone who's starting as a software engineer and then, as you say, sort of working with other companies, always in the ERP systems. So you're obviously a bit of a domain expert
Mhm.
with ERP systems. That's quite clear. But how do you go and transition into that role that you're in now from where you were before?
So I think the few things, some of these were deliberate, and some of them life happened,
Yeah.
and I've been open, curious, and adapting. to situations. So, and as opportunities present them, I see. I think it's a good area for me to learn more. It's interesting, exciting for me, and this is where I can make an impact. This is where I can add value. So, that curiosity of making an impact, creating value, and understanding why we are doing certain things
Yep.
before jumping into the what's and how. That always, and that why always keeps the focus as well
Mhm.
of what are we trying to achieve. And sometimes you get uh, distractions, noise, but once you have the clarity of why we are doing something, it helps to uh, remove that uh, ambiguity or noise and focus on what should be prioritized, where can we get the best value.
Yeah, nice. And it is, as you say, for you, about solving problems, right? That's how you started, and that's how most people sort of start in sort of engineering of any sort, whether that's software or physical engineering. I think even drawing comparisons from that. So it's problem solving at its core, right?
Yes, solving, and solving for who?
Yeah.
Is it making life a few clicks easier for somebody in the business?
Yep.
Or is it really creating value by automating, reducing risk, making the platform attractive for potential buyers, making uh, true efficiencies, not just saving 1 or 2 hours a week for somebody? That, in my terms, is not actual value, because if you are not taking the cost out from an organization,
Yep.
that's not efficiency. It's just making somebody's life a bit easier.
Yeah. Okay. And you spend a lot of time like, with portfolio companies, right? Working with them to sort of either go and buy their business, buy the product, buy into it from the PE firm. Um, like, what are the things that when you walk into a portfolio company that you're looking at that tell you this is either going to be a great product or a great business to implement, or this is going to be messy? Like, what are the first three things that you're generally looking at in that scenario?
So I think I look at three things all in combination. So you can have a great product, but if you don't have a great team,
Hmm.
uh, that may wither down, because we cannot enhance, improve the product for the evolving market needs, or where the competition is heading, or where it might be disrupted by others.
Hmm.
We also need a good team, good leadership who can provide direction and management to deliver those outcomes. And sometimes we just need to marry up those leadership with the shareholder values or shareholder goals
Hmm.
of where we see the best value. Sometimes modernization or moving to cloud
Yeah.
is seen by a lot of technology leaders as a panacea,
Yeah.
but that may or may not always create value. So if you're moving something from on-prem to a cloud, or moving from physical hardware to Amazon or Azure, you're doing a lift and shift.
Yeah.
It may reduce uh, certain cost, but you are just doing the same thing what you're doing in an old system in a newer, brand new application or a brand new infrastructure. So in my head, the main thing is, why are we doing it? Where do we see the best value?
Mm.
So in context of an ERP
Yeah.
implementation or transformation, it's how are the processes going to be different?
Okay.
How are they going to be more resilient?
Yeah.
How do we reduce shadow IT and people working in Excels around as workarounds?
Yeah.
Uh, and how do we standardize across, if our corporation or companies spread across countries or divisions or departments, do they have the common understanding of what revenue is, what margin is, what costs are, and if they are following similar or standardized processes across the countries? Because everybody says we are unique, we are different, we do
Yeah.
things differently here. But most businesses, 80 to 90% is the same.
Yeah.
They buy something from their suppliers,
Yeah.
add some value, and then sell it to their customers.
Yeah.
And that's where they create value.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of it is could be standardized, could be fit fitted within a solution from a software vendor, be it SAP, Oracle, Workday, or Microsoft, or any. It's just that aligning those people to what the vision would be, what the processes would be, and with that processes, what's the target operating model from a people perspective,
Yeah. Okay.
and taking those people on that journey, that how it's beneficial for them, how it will help them deliver the values.
Yeah. Nice. So it's a lot about the people then that are
Yeah.
in that organization.
Yes, so I never find technology as a challenge.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge is uh, having clarity on that, the outcomes, how it would look,
Yeah. Okay.
and then how it would be a win-win. It's not a zero-sum game that somebody wins or somebody loses. It could be a win-win for the colleagues, employees, that they have experience of working on delivering large ERP programs, which they can add to their CV.
Hmm.
It could mean the organization is more resilient, adaptable, flexible,
Yep.
and even the vendors who are helping implement, it's not a one-time job. Uh, Once you implement an enterprise application, once you go live, the job is not done.
Yep.
That's just the first stage. That's the starting point of how where you can further incrementally make minor improvements on an ongoing continuous improvement basis.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's where I think some organizations think we have done a large transformation program, we have went live. That's where the journey ends.
Yep.
I think that's a myth, and also sometimes that's what a wrong notion to have.
Yeah. Okay.
And especially, I think that's the reason like a lot of vendors have moved on to a SaaS cloud version where they continuously provide new functionality every quarter, every 6 months. And it's for those organizations to pick and choose what works for them and how uh, they can derive the benefits of the investments they have made.
Yeah. And technology is changing, of course, all the time, right? So, as you say, to think you're doing this big transformation and then that's it, done, we're out. It's not really the case for the business because technology is going to change, so they're going to have to keep changing and evolving as technology transforms itself. Ultimately,
Yeah. I think I just take analogy from personal health goals and stuff like
yeah,
you can go on a crash diet, lose some weight,
yeah,
or go to a fitness class for 6 months and be slightly fitter. But
yeah,
it's about the habits and the things you do on a daily basis around discipline, consistency, around making that 1% incremental improvement uh, every month, every week
yeah,
to be better than what you were 6 months back, 12 months back. And you can apply that in any corporate scenario or organization as well, that uh, the journey doesn't end. It's continuous improvement, and you need to be consistent, persistent. There'll be challenges.
hmm,
You might have to pivot. You might have to pivot because of geopolitical or competition or changing strategy because the organization decided to sell off a part of the business or
yeah,
have another acquisition. Uh, but I think having that consistency and deliberate focus on how we can improve, making uh, small incremental improvements.
yeah,
So I'm really influenced by the book Atomic Habits.
yeah, yeah. I was going to say this sounds a lot like stuff that I've seen from Atomic Habits. Those small incremental
I
changes.
that really helps.
Yeah,
And also, like sometimes making uh, short-term call versus medium to long-term sustainable things. So sometimes you can make short-term cost efficiencies
hmm,
or things, but that may harm the organization in being a sustainable, resilient organization, or uh, creating unnecessary risks or
yeah.
making the business less scalable.
And you see obviously a lot of sort of deals go through and companies that the firm will be looking at any one time. Like, what's the reality between like what's being offered as a sale as a business versus the reality of what you might be buying? Do they differ quite wildly sometimes?
Majority of the time.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and it happens because once you're buying, the seller is in a sales mood.
yeah,
So they're polishing up an old car.
yeah,
So what's looking a spanky, well polished car may have a failing engine.
yeah,
Secondly, like when you're doing a due diligence, uh, it's a short period of time, four
Yep.
weeks, 6 weeks. So you can go to the surface, and the people who are available for you to question or examine that asset may not have the details.
Yep.
You might look at the application landscape and see you have a modern system, but you can't know exactly what functionality of that system is being used
Hmm.
and what's being done outside the system in Excels and manual workarounds. Also, when you're buying a bigger complex target, they may have operations different in different countries or different applications in different countries, and you cannot get all the details uh, upfront.
Yep.
And third is there's a gap between when the seller has prepared a due diligence report or the architecture and the roadmap when you do a due diligence and when the deal is signed and the deal is closed.
Yep.
So sometimes that can be a period of 3 months or up to a year or 12, 18 months. And during that time, things evolve,
Hmm.
either due to external factors like tariffs,
Yeah.
gas prices, or market cycles, like certain products which were selling amazingly well
Yep.
when we did the due diligence may not be doing that well once we have the ownership of that asset.
Does that happen a reasonable amount of times?
Usually it happens, yes.
Yeah. Is that just purely down to the length of time it takes to go through all the
So it's not just
diligence
that,
of the
it's
sale?
also like, also because sometimes some of the numbers, some of the things, metrics are presented in a way which may not be a true reflection as
Ah,
well.
okay.
It's
Fine.
a mix of combination. So, and the third thing I would say is like when you're doing a due diligence, there might be people you think are capable and running the business.
Mhm.
But when you do acquire a business, some of them may or may not be part of the transaction transfer off to the company,
Yep.
especially the leadership,
Mhm.
or they might leave because they are not aligned with the new ownership or the new goals of the new organization.
Yep.
And when they leave a gap, knowledge gap, experience gap, or sometimes they have been running that business for far too long, say 15 years, 10 years. So they
Yep.
can't think outside the box of how to do things differently.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they can run the business in BAU,
Yep.
but they don't know how to transform.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, and that's the biggest thing for anyone who's been leading and running a business for that length of time. Ultimately, as well, they're giving up their baby. Potentially, it's like one of their children for some people. Giving
Yeah.
up that business, and you're relinquishing a lot of control and
And
things like
it's
that.
a different way of thinking. Like a PE mindset is quite different in the sense that it's very commercially minded. Commercial acumen is quite key.
Yep.
And a lot of technology people are not that commercially able to explain or create the narrative of how a certain initiative could be creating value
Hmm.
in the terms of EBITDA
Yep.
or growth, revenue growth, and things like that. So they might see migrating from a 20-year-old system
Hmm.
it needs to happen,
Yep.
and they might create a 5-year roadmap to move all their applications from older version of SAP or Oracle
Yep.
to the latest version of SAP HANA or Oracle Fusion Cloud and things like that. That needs to be looked at. What's the business benefit? And sometimes, if you have an investment cycle of, from a PE perspective, exit horizon of 3 to 5 years or 7 years,
Hmm.
uh, from a PE shareholder perspective, we are looking at could we deliver value sooner?
Hmm.
And we have to deprioritize things which we may or may not feel confident around. Will it give the value in our holding period?
Yep.
So it's a balance between the shareholder priorities versus what the organization needs in a medium to long run sustainable business.
Yeah. And what would you say are the most overlooked factors in due diligence that are done on deals?
So sometimes in a due diligence, technology is not considered as a key driver.
Okay.
So it's just the commercial value or the market or the sector. But sometimes technology can be a deal breaker or a red flag in the sense that it could be overtly complex to separate the business or run it as a standalone because
Hmm.
either they do not have the capacity, capability, or the right tools and applications.
Hmm.
And the transition of ownership creates a bit of uncertainty, insecurity for the initial 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
And that is a challenge.
Yeah. And have you ever seen sort of deals where the technology looked okay on paper, but when you sort of lift the hood up, so to speak, it's crumbling?
Yes, a lot of the times, because uh, usually it's a combination of factors. So when a seller, a corporate seller, is usually trying to divest a non-core asset,
Mm.
either that's either a non-growth area, a slow growth area, or it's not profitable area.
Yeah.
So, and they start that thinking process 12 months, 18 months, 24 months down the line. So in that process, what they usually do is reduce the investment and modernization spend.
Okay.
So they do not start a big ERP transformation just before they're about to sell.
Yep.
So a lot of times when we acquire assets or companies, they would be having a 20-year-old ERP which is out of support, is a security risk, or has a low availability, goes down
Yeah.
just during peak seasons or peak periods, which reduces the ability to sell more or invoice the customers on time
Yeah.
or get the best discounts from their vendors and stuff.
Mhm.
So that happens all the time.
I was gonna say it probably sounds like it's quite a common theme if you're going in because your whole purpose and plan will be to go and transform and upgrade everything. So I'd imagine it's probably sort of cracking at the seams quite often.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And do you find that is it a challenge, or does that make things easier to go in and say, well, look, it is what it is. We know we can get more value out of it because I can see instantly where I can make some change. I was going to say quick changes. It's not necessarily quick changes, but some you can easily spot those changes, and then you know how you're going to get that value add. Look at increasing the EBITDA, as you say, all those sort of things that you're trying to do to drive more revenue into the business to get maximum out of it when you eventually sort of look to move it on.
So yes, there are two aspects to it. So when we are looking at a due diligence, we form our investment thesis of how we could scale the business, grow the business, what would the potential exit look like.
Yep.
That may change over the period of time, but we have those investment theses to see this is how we'll create value, either by reducing cost,
Hmm.
uh, adding new digital channels, things like that.
Hmm.
And so once we have, after day one, once we have owned the company, we go into the details, look at where are we spending every penny,
Hmm.
what are essential, what are non-essentials, what major programs and projects are aligned to the strategy we have.
Yep.
And sometimes we are very ruthless to reduce the portfolio projects to bare minimum so
Okay.
that we reduce any unnecessary spend, any contracts, long-term contracts, we don't get into them. And then first 3 months, we have a good understanding of the capability
Yep.
within the organizations, come up with a transformation roadmap for next 12 months, 24 months, look at what capabilities we need to build it, either through leadership, interim roles, or partners,
Hmm.
either system implementation partner or consultancies, boutique consultancies in those areas,
Yep.
and create a roadmap, 12 months, 24 months.
Hmm.
And sometimes we make some early quick wins of making tactical things. So one things which is quite critical in most of our portfolio is data and dashboards and reporting
Yep.
around how are we doing on a daily basis. So in some corporates, when we acquire them, it takes them weeks to understand how did the business did 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back.
Yep.
Uh, Having that real time or near real time visibility helps on how the business is heading on a daily basis, weekly basis. Then we can make informed decision in our buying for the next season, next year,
Yep.
how to procure or what to target to our customers. So having some tactical dashboards using simple tools like Power BI with data from their legacy ERPs or Excels,
Yep.
and then in the meantime working on a roadmap how to make that production ready, standardized, automated a BI platform. Similarly, like in corporates, it takes a lot of time to decide what product to go with or what vendor to go with in
Okay.
ERP,
Yep.
and that exercise of vendor selection can take 6 months, 9 months.
Hmm.
But having worked long enough in PE environments, I understand that you have your thesis, you have your gut feel, and you never like get 100% all the data you need to make a decision.
Yeah. Okay.
So don't sacrifice good for perfection.
Yeah.
Start with something,
Yep.
even if you have 60%, 70%, and then we can course correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So things which are reversible, make easy, quick decisions,
Yep.
move ahead. Things which are irreversible, have it think through, take your time, but not too much.
Yeah. It's that saying of sometimes done is better than not, right?
Yeah,
So you get paralyzed by wanting everything to be perfect, and then you don't start, and that could be worse than making a few mistakes and then going, as you say, you make some quick decisions on those mistakes and go back and reverse them pretty quickly.
yeah. And also, it's also around having that agility of evolving market situations, things like that. Sometimes you have to look at conserving cash uh, to have the business operational in current 3 months, 6 months, rather than looking at 3 years, 5 years window.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's looking at that long term horizon of uh, and mixing that up.
Yep. Okay. Nice. And in terms of those sort of deals then, so it sounds like sometimes it can be like 12 months before you even start making any changes to the organization. Does that generally sort of shock leadership people when you're going in, or do they think things are going to happen instantly? Like, what's the feeling normally from the inside?
So it's a mix. Some people are energized
Yeah.
because they are sometimes frustrated with the slow pace
Okay.
or the inability to take decisions and move ahead. So they are energized and they are uh, aligned to what the new owners would do.
Hmm.
It's also a fact that within a PE environment, when a business is acquired, majority of the leadership and the exec or the C-suite changes within the first 12 months.
Yeah.
I think I was reading somewhere that the figure is between somewhere to 70 to 90%.
Okay. It's fairly sizable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a big change.
Yeah.
The whole leadership change and uncertainty around that. And when they move, the second layer, they usually take them with them as well. So managing that transition
Hmm.
with communication, managing with providing them the comfort that it's for the better of the organization, and also creating that balance between creating a win-win situation for both sides.
Hmm. Yep, and that's what it's gotta be, right? It's gotta be everyone's getting something out of it. It can't just be this, like, one person smash and grab, otherwise it
Yeah.
all falls down because if people are not then on board, you've got one person going against the other, and it's at loggerheads. I mean, have you ever seen that sort of scenario play out?
Uh, Not in that sense, but in the sense that sometimes when pre-deal or just before a deal, somebody will come up with an investment thesis and a roadmap for value creation.
Yeah,
They are usually external customer consultants or advisors who have not never worked in a business before.
right.
So sometimes that strategy may or may not work in real life scenarios.
Okay.
So that's one of the challenge. And secondly, sometimes you have a different kind of incentives for vendors and partners. So they want to maximize their own revenue.
Yeah.
But I work with them in a collaborative fashion to say it's a long term relationship.
Mhm.
It's not just you do one piece of job and you're away.
Yeah.
It's a long term relationship, not just within that portfolio, but other portfolio companies. If they do a good job in one portfolio company, we use them massively in other portfolio companies. And so we create the right incentives for each vendor, either through is it a fixed price or is it
Yeah.
time and material with milestones and where they have a skin in the game as well
Yeah.
in the outcomes rather than just a time and material
Yeah, it makes sense because then everyone's driven to work
towards that
towards that outcome, right?
rather than just everybody working on their own silos or towards their own goals.
Yeah, exactly, which can be, detrimental to the whole thing.
I think it's as I mentioned like previously, like it's the main thing of working in leadership role is alignment and alignment of the stakeholders, the shareholders,
Mhm.
the exec in the portfolio companies, and from that driving the vendors and the junior teams to work towards that outcome.
Yeah, nice. And it talked earlier about like data and getting data out and looking at the data, seeing what it's telling you using platforms like Power BI. Obviously, the data is what the data is. You can't control the data that's been there historically. Um, but I'd imagine things have become slightly easier over the last couple of years, especially with AI modernizing how we can read data, get access to it quickly, analyze it. Has that helped or speed up
Yes,
transactions?
yes. So it's massively helped,
Hmm.
and a lot of the leaders, operating partners, or the execs are now quite fluent in some of the Gen AI tools,
Yep.
and they try a Claude or a Copilot to analyze large amount of data themselves, and sometimes it's very good because that provides them the visibility, either good or bad,
Yeah.
and also sometimes it opens up all the challenges the business had because if you have poor data in, you'll get poor insights.
Correct. Yeah.
So a sales team may have a different view of revenue versus a finance team or accounting team,
Yep.
or the margins,
Yep.
or organization may have the same customer name at three different ways in three different systems.
Hmm.
Somewhere it may be an IBM, some may be an IBM Limited, or
Yeah.
some may be IBM UK,
I've seen that before.
and uh, they can't get a clear view of how much are they spending with a single vendor,
Yeah.
or how much is a single customer buying from them.
Yeah. That's a really common sort of issue. I think across a lot of businesses, no matter what they're doing, is that sort of, especially across multiple customers, large scale organizations, different countries. So really trying to get
Or
a
different
view.
systems.
Yeah, all on different systems. It's
So I think
it's
it's
slightly
more of a
wild.
governance and operational topic rather
Yeah.
than a pure technology topic.
Mm.
So it's around who is owning that data,
Yeah.
who is owning that process.
Yeah.
And once there's an ownership and accountability within the business, uh, technology falls into place.
Yeah. The technology works, right? Ultimately, as you say, it's not the technology you're normally looking at. It's the people and how they're utilizing the technology and the systems that are in place to
Yes.
get the most out of it.
And also, like a lot of these tools are helping in the sense, like especially the AI tools are helping uh, in making that analysis quicker.
Hmm.
Uh, the initial drafts easier to make.
Yeah.
Previously, something which used to take 4 weeks, 6 weeks can be done in matter of hours.
Yeah.
So if I look at software delivery or ERP delivery, like I remember programs which were 3 years, 5 years, and there are a team of 5 or 6 colleagues working on preparing test scripts and test documentation for 3 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
That can be done in hours because AI can generate you a first draft, which is 80%, 90% there. Then you just need to tailor it for your specific
Mm.
organization, for your specific
Yeah.
use case. That can accelerate a lot of things. But you still need that human judgment, human uh, lens on top of it. Does
Yeah.
it cover everything? Are we missing some gaps,
Yeah.
or are we overlooking some blind spots? Or what have we learned from our experience?
Yeah.
Or what may or may not work within this specific context or within this organization?
And do you think it can become an issue whereby people, you say, like, AI is great at getting you to sort of 80, maybe 90% of the way there. Like there's sometimes an over reliance on not checking the work that AI is doing. People that I've seen have sort of looked at it and go, well, I'll just use AI and it's fine. And then you pump it out, not really looking through, using your human eye to really sort of fact check and make sure that it's giving you the right information that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think tools are maturing. It's a
Yeah.
new landscape. And AI tools are probabilistics, they are not deterministic.
Hmm.
So if you ask the same question 2 different times, you might get two different answers.
Hmm.
And you're never sure what's the calculation being used or what's the logic being used
Yeah.
or what was the logic you used 2 weeks back. Uh, you have a new version of a model every few weeks, and what they calculated 2 months back versus what it calculates or shows you the data may be totally different.
Yeah.
And it's also like how you prompt or how you ask a specific question.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Like if you ask any Gen AI tool, what's the benefits of Ozempic, for example,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it will give you that it's a panacea for diabetes, it's a panacea for weight loss, and it has so many positives.
Mhm.
But if you ask the same Gen AI tool, what are the side effects, it will show you all doom and gloom.
Yeah, yeah. It'll go suddenly. It says, "You're right," a lot. It tends AI tends to agree with us to make us feel positive about how we're sort of interacting with it.
So it's also like what questions you ask, how you ask,
Yeah,
and it is probabilistic. It is a best guess or based on that experience. It may or may not have the full set of data.
yeah.
It may not be nuanced enough based on the context you are in.
Do you think we'll see some issues coming out of this though, as we go down the line? Like, say, deals being done by people using AI to do some of their due diligence and not doing their own due diligence on the AI.
So not say it will be because of AI.
Yeah,
It's again back to the human diligence around uh, have we cross-checked everything?
yeah,
Also around, and it can happen without AI tools as well. Like
yeah.
there's a lot of things to consider when you're making a decision,
Hmm.
and I think AI will help reduce some of those things because as a human, you can do as much as possible. Like when you're doing a due diligence and looking at 100 contracts,
Mm,
each contract is 50 page or 100 page. You can't go through a single every single line and find that out.
yeah,
But if you churn that through an AI engine, which can process 100 contracts line by line and look at what things to look at, or the red flags, or things which might impact the long term journey.
yeah,
So I think it will help more on the positive side rather than the negative side.
yeah.
There's always some potential bad actors, especially in the space of cyber or hackers and stuff, which would try to uh, misuse it. But
Yeah.
I think every technology has more good than the negatives.
It's just making sure that people are prepared to use it in a correct way, where they're not just relying on it
Blindly.
100% blindly. Exactly that.
And they need to question it and just say, how are these numbers derived? What was the calculation used? Where did you find this fact?
Yeah.
Or did you just made it up?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it does have a habit of making things up. And also, you talked about going through contracts. You need to make sure you're telling it what to look for. You need to know what you're looking for. You can't just say to an AI, well, you can just say to an AI platform, look through this contract and show me some red flags. But you need to to tell it what the red flags are that you're potentially on the lookout for,
Yeah.
rather than just expecting it to know.
And that comes from experience.
Yeah.
That comes from having burnt your hands few times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the key, right? You only learn from experience by actually going through, getting your hands burnt through some of these things, and going, "Oh, I didn't see that in there." So you need to make sure you're going back and double checking.
And sometimes it's not humanly possible to, like, some people are extremely diligent, detail oriented, and they can go through every line and make it out. Lawyers and legal teams have been doing that. Paralegals have been doing that for long.
Yep,
But humanly, it's impossible to look at every possible detail, every T's and C's, and the caveats or assumptions and things like that. So we'll never be 100% there, but I think it will help uh, reduce the risk.
yep. And you've worked with tech leaders in various sort of PE backed firms that you've had as portfolio companies. What do you think makes the difference between a tech leader in a PE backed organization that thrives versus one that struggles?
In a PE backed environment, tech leaders needs to be commercially minded.
Okay.
So a lot of tech leaders are great tech leaders who can deliver good tech outcomes, but they may or may not be commercial
Hmm.
in the sense of how is it adding value, how is it reducing risk, and being able to communicate to stakeholders in terms of the language they understand.
Yep.
So if a tech leader comes and says we'll modernize from on-prem hardware to cloud, a PE shareholder may ask, what does that mean?
Why? Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Or how is adding value or reducing risk or adding to your exit multiples, or how is it attractive to a buyer?
Yeah.
So I think being able to communicate to the stakeholders in the terms they understand, to the
Yeah.
CFOs, to the chief operating officers, that this is how, this is why we are doing this initiative. This is how it will create cost reduction, value creation,
Hmm.
growth, or reducing a cyber risk, which can impact uh, either operations and things like that.
Yep.
If you look at recent examples last year of Marks and Spencers or Co-op and others, the business was impacted massively for a quarter because they were not able to sell online and things like that.
Yep.
It's to not to create panic, but also to put that a number to say, okay, if we do this, we're reducing the risk by this.
Hmm.
This will create a resiliency, or we are able to operate during peaks. They won't understand, okay, if we increase the capacity of a server by X GB RAM or what processing power by this, what does it mean? So
Yeah.
they need to be translated into a language financial leaders or
Yeah.
people who are number crunching understand.
So it's being that having business savvy sort of nature
Commercial
about you
acumen
and commercial acumen. Yeah.
and being like operationally. The second thing I would say is being on top of their operational numbers,
Yeah.
having their KPIs understood, that where are they spending, are there still room, and being constantly monitoring their spend on various initiatives.
Hmm.
And third is having a focused portfolio. So sometimes they start too many initiatives all in parallel,
Yeah.
which are vying for the same human resources or decisions. So I always work with them and to say, have a shorter list of focused programs
Hmm.
uh, which deliver value. So it's better always to deliver 3 programs well done rather than 10 programs which are faltering.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you see that often when you go into portfolio companies?
Yes,
Yeah.
especially if we are acquiring a business from a big corporate where they have higher standards of governance or red tape and bureaucracy,
Hmm.
and they want to be extra cautious on everything. Decision making, everything has to go through multiple change boards, enterprise architecture,
Yeah.
security architects. Uh, that decision takes time. So, need to create a balance between speed and safety.
And how do you do that? Because sometimes there's pressure, right, to get things done quickly, especially in the modern world, and when you've got timelines of you want to get through a transformation program in however long that it's going to do, or implementing new ERP, whatever it is that you're going through. Right? How do you balance that speed versus sort of due diligence of making sure you're doing the right thing?
So, there are 2 things I usually do. One is like things which can be reversed easily or without much impact,
Hmm.
make quick decisions. Things which require thought through, like if you're signing a 3-year contract with a vendor,
Hmm.
think through properly.
Yeah.
So, things which are irreversible, think through properly,
Yeah.
a bit more time. Things which are easily reversible or without major impact, make quick decisions.
Hmm.
Uh, and the second would be around, don't wait for a perfect answer.
Yeah.
You will have a good picture and good gut feel judgment when you have 50 to 60, 70% data.
Yeah.
And with your experience, having worked in this field, most leaders understand they can make a decision. It's just that aligning those stakeholders to say, okay, this is a risk we are carrying.
Yeah.
Are we ready to accept that risk? Or if not, how do we mitigate?
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So it's about sort of either you've got to go, okay, there's some risk here, and we have to take it on board and try and ultimately reduce the risk as much as possible, but just doing the thing that we need to do.
Yeah, I think action speaks louder than long plans
Yeah.
and strategy, because a good plan or a strategy is as good as preparing as much for a boxing match until the first punch hits your face.
Yeah. 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 It's so true. And then suddenly your face hits the canvas, and that's it. The strategy's out the window.
And then how you pick up and how you stay resilient and pivot or
Yeah.
course correct as you go along. So start working on it, make actions, uh, go for some quick wins, early wins, show value,
Hmm.
gain confidence in your stakeholders,
Yep.
and then once you show them that value, once you have that confidence, you get a bit more room,
Hmm.
uh, and in parallel, you work on the medium to long term strategy of production ready resilient solution.
Nice. And we've talked a bit about like the balance between sort of technology and the people, and we've talked about creating value, EBITDA. Like, where does technology, do you think, actually move the needle on EBITDA? How can it create more value? Because we've talked a lot about the people in the organization, the strategy, the systems, but
Mm.
where does it, technology actually move the needle, do you think?
Some things are quite simple.
Yeah.
So some places where uh, moving from a older technology stack to a new technology landscape, say moving from an on-prem to SaaS ERP,
Hmm.
you can get value by reducing single person dependencies in the business who know how to operate a specific function within that ERP,
Hmm.
be it a DBA or be an uh, integration person who knows how these integrations work,
Yep.
uh, to the vendor doing it or the software doing that process for you, and reducing that people cost from that business,
Yep.
uh, or like moving where you have on-premise applications or infrastructure, which takes expensive real estate, maintenance, and specialist skills,
Hmm.
which you may or may not have because people retire, move on. So we are removing that risk as well as the cost.
Okay.
Those are the easier and quick ones.
Hmm.
But other changes, especially in the space of ERP technologies or digital transformation, come more from your operating model and process.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you doing things differently? If you're just lifting and shifting from an old application to a new application or old hardware to a new infrastructure,
Yeah.
that will not give you the best value.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just around how are you going to do things differently?
Yeah.
How are we going to change the process? How are we automating things?
Hmm.
That's where the value lies. So I'll give an example where moving from a manual paper-based field sales solution where the salespeople are going from customer to customer, taking orders, giving them prices, brochures,
Hmm.
moving them to an iPad Pro with a field sales system, which can give them real-time stock, real-time prices, customized for that customer, and they don't have to do paperwork and come back to their office in the later in the evening and type that order in.
Yeah.
uh, can reduce it. Similarly, like moving from that to a self-serve e-com platform where customers, instead of relying on salesperson to visit them once a week or once a month,
Mm.
can place an order whenever they want to.
Yeah.
They can check the availability, price, and if they have a question, they can call somebody and say, "Okay, uh, can I get a discount or whatever?"
Yeah.
Similarly, like a lot of things which happened in a lot of common back office functions can be automated. Be it say invoice processing, accounting function of automating month-end processes or reducing the time from say 10 days to 3 days.
Yeah.
Uh, Similarly, a lot of things I'm seeing a positive improvement in the field of customer care contact centers.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know like how many retailers or things you have interacted in the recent past. You would be able to connect to a human.
Yeah. It's very
So
difficult.
and a lot of those customer journeys are consistent across most retailers.
Hmm.
Most customers are looking at where is my order? When will I get it?
Yeah.
I've returned it. I've not received my refund.
Yeah.
When can I expect a refund? Or I ordered a replacement.
Yeah.
Do you have that in red color or size 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that can be automated and that can take away a lot of manual work
Hmm.
from the organization, reduce cost, which impacts your profitability.
Yeah.
And sometimes a majority of the time also creates a better customer experience. So
Yeah.
like if you look at Amazon,
Mm.
the return processes, refund processes are so
So
brilliant
easy.
that creates a customer stickiness
Mm.
and long-term loyalty.
But that's what they've done with everything, isn't it? Is they've just created a really simple process to, it's very simple to buy stuff, simple to return it, simple to sort out problems on the most part. Uh, so it's about creating. They've created systems, like you say, to simplify everything and make it really easy.
Yeah, and it makes customers stick because they have a good customer experience,
Yeah.
and it reduces the manual labor from day to day.
Mm.
We still need people, but they are be dealing with exceptions where you need a human judgment
Yeah.
to look at patterns. Are somebody misusing those systems, or continuously improve those systems and solutions to reduce either fraud or leakage?
Yeah. And so you make a lot of this sound sort of relatively simple. I'm sure it's the way you're explaining it. I know full well that there are, complex parts of the things that you do. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so simple to do it, and things wouldn't go wrong. But I see still like tech investments failing to create financial outcomes for firms. So why do you think that still happens? Like when it's if you can create the systems, it should be fairly simple. Like why do issues still happen where it doesn't create the financial outcomes that people want?
So I think one of the main thing is people who start those initiatives may not live towards the end of initiatives.
Okay.
So they go with a vision
Hmm.
or a strategy or the outcomes in mind.
Yep.
So, but either they are not involved throughout the life cycle of that transformation journey to follow through and say, are we delivering, working toward the same outcomes?
Yep.
Because somebody in the leadership may decide that we are doing this transformation for these outcomes, but the people actually delivering that program are junior teams within the business or SI partners or vendors,
Hmm.
and having that constant feedback loop to say, are we going on the right track? Why are we doing it? Uh, Sometimes create the gap, and sometimes people who are creating that vision are a bit away from reality of how things actually happen,
Yeah.
and there are challenges on the way, or things evolve during the life cycle of programs, which are like 2 years, 3 years program. Uh, Decisions made at the beginning may not hold true 2 years, 3 years down the line because the business has evolved, markets have evolved. And the third thing I would say is not tracking the benefits
Yep.
from day one to say, okay, these are the benefits we are trying to gather or achieve,
Yep.
documenting them and having that clarity to all the stakeholders that these are the benefits we want to achieve.
Yep.
This is how we'll track them. These are the KPIs. So having that transparency,
Hmm.
uh, or not having that transparency
Yep.
can be a deal breaker.
Yep.
And third is sometimes some of these initiatives are confidential, or some of the outcomes are confidential because a lot of these programs may result in reduction in workforce, for example.
Yeah. Okay.
So, or could result in a
Yeah.
reduction in workforce. So, how do you communicate? What do you communicate? And when do you communicate? It impacts people's roles, responsibilities, and some people see it through,
Yeah.
and sometimes they may become a blocker, or if not a blocker, but maybe not as cooperative.
And so a final couple of questions for you, Punit, before we let you go. Um, Someone, if they are a technology leader in a business at the moment, they're looking at potentially going through some sort of P acquisition. Like, what are the top things that they should get in order to make sure that they're prepared for any you know potential sale or purchase?
So, I think for a PE buyer, what they're looking at is transparency in numbers.
Hmm.
What are they spending? Where are they spending?
Yep.
How much of that is critical? How easy or difficult would it be to run that business in a standalone? And giving them that confidence that they have the people, the capabilities, and the maturity,
Hmm.
uh, having that commercial acumen, and being operationally astute.
Okay.
So it's a combination of these. Yes, you need to know your technology, you need to know your uh, core tech skills,
Yep.
but over and above that, I think having that business acumen and stakeholder communications.
Yeah. Okay. And if you could fix one thing in the way that PE firms think about technology businesses, what would that be?
Good question. Let me think about it. So it's that marrying up of the vision that organization has
Hmm.
for medium to long run, balancing that with short term efficiency, cost out, or value creation things, and making informed decisions.
Yep.
You may take a decision, uh, and as long as you're aware that these are the pitfalls or risks of taking that decisions, of either letting go of some people who have the key skills, expertise, knowledge, or domain expertise, or uh, thinking that certain feature or product is not as beneficial for customers,
Yeah.
but customers may stop using that product or service because we took away a certain thing because they were expensive to deliver.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really, really sort of making sure that you're giving everything to everyone that they want.
Not everything,
Really.
but
Yeah.
making informed decision that yes, sometimes we want to sell things which we are profitable,
Yep.
but sometimes you need to make a judgment call. If we don't give this small thing freebie,
Yep.
the customers will walk out.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And then
having
you're
that
left
balance.
without anything. Yeah. Nice. Fantastic. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom. I think we've busted a couple of myths along the way, and unlocked some things that people won't know. So again, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you, Rupert.